Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. Let's take a little trip to another small island off of the coast of Okinawa. This past weekend, August 31st is the specific date, but Labor Day weekend, my husband and I always celebrate our anniversary, and this year it was our 12-year wedding anniversary. So we decided to sign up for a little stay at a resort. It was a little 2-night, 3-day thing with our ITT department, which is like a travel ticket kind of place that will book things for you. And this was the perfect little weekend getaway. It's been honestly years since we've done a little trip by ourselves. Usually we go with family or friends or something like that. And our last trip, we technically went home, even though that was for not so fun reasons. Of course, we had a good time, but I would not have considered that a vacation. So we definitely wanted to get into a little something different and maybe do some excursions and stuff. And we came across this and it was just perfect. So here they are loading up our tour bus. We just took it from the base, so everything was included except for lunches and whatever drinks and souvenirs and stuff like that, obviously. But we got 2 breakfasts and 2 dinners. Actually, technically 3 breakfasts and 2 dinners. The ferry was included, and then so was the bus over there. Also a tour, which I will show you a couple of really cool things that we saw before we got checked into our hotel. My husband and I love ferries and trains and travel in general, but when it's beautiful like this, it's hard not to really appreciate just not being in a car to get somewhere, I guess. This was a very fun bridge. We'll see it up close here in just a second. The water was absolutely beautiful. The weather was gorgeous the entire trip, which is funny because on our way back through, when we got back to Okinawa, the bus driver had mentioned that apparently it rained most of the weekend on Okinawa, and this is only about 30 minutes worth of a ferry ride away. So the temperature differences and the weather differences I find kind of funny considering they're literally right next to each other. So we are leaving this port, headed to the island. And I'll probably end up butchering a lot of the words here. I've tried very hard to make sure I listened very well, and I'm doing all the names as good as I can. But it's an I and an E to spell it, but it's actually pronounced EA Island. And you can start to see the little Mount Gusuku there in the background. I'll point it out when it gets a little bit more obvious in the video. Here's me. You can see the little peak starting to form there. We're getting closer and closer. This island is only 9 square miles big. So you can literally get to the top of that and see the whole island pretty much, which I'll talk about that here in a second. Also, yes, it's called Iwajima. Jima is island in Japanese, like Iwo Jima. And this is their port. They had a really nice little welcoming center where you can also get your return tickets. That's all these orange awnings and roofs. The ferry was very fast. I don't even think it was a full 30 minutes, especially with the water this calm and everything. And of course it's a ferry, and our tour bus is on here, so they have to line it up just right so they can drive all of the vehicles off. We saw people on bikes, and the really cool thing about this ferry is that every morning it takes high schoolers to mainland to go to high school, because there is no high school on this island. They have, I think our tour guide said, 2 elementary schools and a middle school. Alright, so we're going to get off of the boat here and grab our tour bus again, and they're going to take us to the YYY resort. I wish I knew why it was called that. I did try to find out why, but I could not. And that guy that you just saw in the previous clip is our tour guide, Brian. So we had a tour guide, Yuko, who went with us, and then we met Brian here so he can tell us a little bit more about the island. This is our awesome room, and by awesome room I mean an awesome view. Look at that. The green water is about like a midday thing. Usually it's kind of dark blue in the morning and then the evening, but it gets pretty green like this. Had a great pool and a little shop. Alright, after we set all of our stuff down, we did end up going on this tour. It was about 2 hours. The first place that we stopped was actually Ernie Pyle's memorial area because he was shot and killed here. And that was a photojournalist during the war. This cave, I'm not going to try and pronounce it in Japanese, but it's the Cave of 1,000 People. They used to come down here to be away from the war zones and things like that, and they would just be left alone down there. Beautiful beaches right up next to it with these cute little hermit crabs. Look how tiny this guy is. I will try to link all of these places in the description below so that you can learn more about them if you're interested. I unfortunately just don't have enough footage to really get into depth about any of these places, but we had such a good time. It was so beautiful seeing new scenery and just learning more about the history. This island actually has, as small as it has 2 different airports, or runways really. Now this area is actually where they used to get their fresh water because there is a spring. It's called Waji Point. That's probably the most beautiful coastline I've ever seen in my life. The bright green areas there are actually the brain coral meeting up to the edge of the island. And you can see that card down there for reference. The scale was just magnificent. And this is the top of Mount Gusuku. I did not make it. There were 300 steps. I hit about 200 and decided it was not for me, so I sent my husband up to get more footage and some video clips, and he did great. This is day 2, the morning of. You can see how that water is much darker. And at the end of this day, because all we really did was lay around and just enjoy time, we hit the pool up and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, we did a sunset cruise, and it's probably it is the best part about the whole trip for me. I thought it was gorgeous, the weather was perfect, the boat was nice. And he just let us sit out there and watch it go down. They went out at the perfect time. We stayed through the whole sunset. Unfortunately, we did not see any green flash. But on the way back, we do end up seeing some really beautiful crepuscular rays just for a few seconds at the end of, I think it's this clip. And she's set. It was a very nice boat. I would imagine it's the same kind of boat that you get for like a fishing charter through the resort too, because that was also an option. You can't see them, but there at the end, that was like a pile of tetrapods, which I always find fun. And then this is the morning of day 3, which we're about to go down for breakfast and then get on the ferry and leave. And if you can see that kind of white thing poking up above the trees there, that was actually the resort. We did not know where it was when we first arrived on the island, but obviously after seeing the view, we figured it out. And here we are grabbing the bus to head home and saying bye to Mr. Brian. It was a beautiful trip and we would do it again. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Bye guys!